welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with more of Spooktober. This episode, we're talking about the Highway of Tears. This is more, why are there so many women, especially indigenous women who are going missing on this stretch of road that covers almost 3/4 of the Canadian province of British Columbia. So yeah, it covers Prince Rupert over here at the coast, and Prince George over here is where it kind of starts. And like I said, it covers about 3/4 of British Columbia, because here's the border with, I'm not sure if it's Manitoba, I don't think it's Alberta, maybe Saskatchewan. I can't remember my provinces very well and what order they go. But yeah, just perhaps the best known British Columbian city, Vancouver, and it's in the very south here. So to kind of give you an idea of where we're looking, right up here's borders with Alaska, southern Alaska. So to kind of give you, oh, do not, I do not want you to move. Really? You had to be an idiot? All we want. Copy. I hate when it does this bullshit. No, I did not want that bottom one. Paste. Jeez almighty. Sometimes maps can get finicky in Google for some reason. Anyway, yeah. Prince Rupert to Prince George. Sometimes, usually included, there is some tiny off-roads that go up just a ways. I think there's one that goes up here. This one that goes all out to Grand Isle. And then, of course, down here, the one that goes to Kitimat. There's a little road. But yeah. That's usually seen as the Highway of Tears. For decades. Excuse me as I squish a plastic bottle. Less trash that way. For years, for decades, a number of indigenous women have been going missing on this stretch of road. And yeah, it's hard not to kind of see a somewhat similar comparison with, in America, what's known as the Trail of Tears, which in the 1800s, Andrew Jackson's military, fuck you, Andrew, led members of 5 Native American nations and force marched them to Oklahoma. Even though they had won their case, the Cherokee and a number of the other um, tribes that were the government was trying to force off their own land had taken their case to court. They'd actually won. But of course, that leads to the famous decision by, or the famous statement by Andrew Jackson telling the Supreme Court, "You've made your decision, now let's see you enforce it." And he basically had military march them out away from their homes to modern day Oklahoma. And that where we see it's not quite the same basis, but Trail of Tears, Highway of Tears, and they both deal with Native American lives. It's kind of weird, eerie. But anyway, we are talking about the Highway of Tears, which, like I said, Canadian covers about 3/4 of British Columbia province in Canada. So yeah. Now, many of the women are picked up hitchhiking. But sometimes you've got no other way you're going to be able to travel. We are talking northern Canada. We're literally not that far from Alaska or the ocean, which I can tell you more than likely would have some very cold air blowing in off onto the coast there. So yeah. So yeah, it's going to be cold. Trying to walk it on your own, it's not something you want to do. You're going to look for help, kindness of strangers. But yeah, let's get into some history here. First, from Wikipedia, the Highway of Tears. It shows a map, like I pointed out. Here's from Rupert, let's see, St. George to St. Rupert, and then the little tiny offlet roads I mentioned. So yeah. Highway of Tears. It is, I think, yeah, in Canada, Highway 16. We know at least 80 plus victims, and the span of the crimes go from about 1969, 1970 to present. Altogether, 447 miles or 719 kilometers. But yeah, has been the location of crimes against many women. The highway itself was completed in 1970. The phrase, though, was coined during a vigil held in Terrace, BC, in 1998 by Florence Naziel, who was thinking of victims' families crying over their loved ones. There are a disproportionately high number of indigenous women on the list of victims, hence the association with the missing and murdered indigenous women movement. Yeah, it's an actual women movement dealing with the fact that so many indigenous women, native women, they've ended up dead or gone missing. A lot of it in Canada. So yeah. And yeah, this Highway of Tears is a big, infamous portion. Proposed explanations for the years long endurance of the crimes and the limited progress in identifying corporate or culprits include poverty, drug abuse, widespread domestic violence, disconnection with traditional culture, and disruption of the family unit through the foster care system. Um, yeah, poverty in particular leads to low rates of vehicle ownership and mobility, thus, hitchhiking is often the only way for many to travel vast distances to see family or go to work, school, or seek medical treatment. So, again, you're punished for being poor. This is why I think there needs to be a firm drive to wipe out poverty. Nobody should be so poor they put themselves in danger just to travel because they're forced to hitchhike. Yeah. Uh, but yeah. The lack of public transportation between communities was at one time a major factor. Another factor leading to unsolved disappearances is that the area is largely isolated and remote. Um, and that soft soil in many areas make burial easier, and carnivorous scavengers often carry away human remains. Now, remember, this is northern British Columbia, just under southern Alaska. There are further up territories, Canadian territories, but this is still one of the provinces, but it's in the northern end. Like I said, you're also near the coast. You're going to have some cold weather. So the likelihood of there there being a high populace is unlikely, and thus they are isolated and remote. It's going to be a very rural situation because you're just not going to have big towns. The place is not easy living at all, I would imagine. As I pointed out, the biggest city nearby, you can go south and find Vancouver. But yeah, but that's near the very south end of British Columbia. Victims, there is a large portion of Indigenous women among the victims. Hence the association with the missing and murdered Indigenous women movement. Accounts vary as to the exact number of victims. According to the RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Project EPANA, the number of victims is fewer than 18, while Aboriginal organizations estimate the number of missing and murdered women is higher than 40. The table below lists all the known women who went missing, where were murdered, or died of unknown causes on the Highway of Tears. EPANA cases are categorized in the table. So the oldest one, anywhere in the 70s, she went missing, Tracy Clifton. Um, 1970, in October, having gone missing 17-year-old Helen Claire Frost. October 71, gone missing 18-year-old Jean Virginia Jenny Sampari. December of 74, murdered 14-year-old Monica Ignace. July 76, homicide 21-year-old Corrine Thomas. March of 1978, homicide 31-year-old Mary Jane Hill. October of 81, homicide 36-year-old Jean Mary Kovacs. November of 81, homicide 13-year-old Roswitha Fuchs Spickler. I believe that's how it's pronounced, I'm not sure. August of 1982, homicide 15-year-old Nina Marie Joseph. August of 1989, 26-year-old Jack Family goes missing. So it's I'm assuming it's an individual person since it's just 26-year-old. Although Jack Family looks like it would mean several people, but interesting. August of 89, homicide, 24-year-old Alberta Gail Williams. October of 1989, having gone missing, 15-year-old Cecilia Ann Nickel. November of 1989, homicide, 18-year-old Marnie Blanchard. And of course, in this row right here, it tells where they disappeared at. Often at the very beginning there, Prince George. Here's at the very end, Prince Rupert. Oh, 0-year-old. Hold on, I don't need you to highlight everything. I'm just trying to figure out. Zero-year-old. On the 5th of February, approximate. You can't read it. Yeah. I hate trying to do things so you can see the entire thing, but you can't see the entire thing if you make it bigger, because anyway. So apparently they had found a murdered infant. February 1990, homicide, 45-year-old Helga Racon. So the Racons were mentioned up here. So this must have been, yeah, the baby of probably Sherry or Helga. As well as 26-year-old Sherry Racon. 19-year-old Pauline Racon. June of 1990, missing and having gone missing, last seen in Smithers, 15-year-old Delphine and Camelia Nicole. September 1990 in Prince George, homicide, 22-year-old Donna Mae Charlie. Why do you do that? Why? I don't ask you to do that. And you decide, let's be a moron and jump. Anyway, January 92, homicide. They don't even have an age. Maureen Sullivan. February 93, Therese Humphrey. Homicide. A lot of them are young, some of them are older, but you see a lot of teens, early 20s. Which makes it feel to me like there's just some guys that some predators that are like, ooh, young, look at that young one. 4. Simpson. LaFranc. Okay, so Simpson. Okay. So they just found the baby. 3. Yeah. This is unfortunate. An 89-year-old woman, Margaret Newski. Last seen near Fraser Lake and went missing on the afternoon, October 2004. Melanie Dawn Brown, Mary Madeline George, Tamara Lynn Chipman, Candace Marie Kalmakoff, Ayla Katharina Sarek Auger, Stephanie Joy Donnelly, Beverly Warbrick. Yeah. There's a lot of victims. Again, you'll often find some older women, but others you'll find a lot of. See, here's unnamed, unknown, found at Telqua, or last seen at Telqua. They believe they might have found the body in Vancouver, or no, it was or sent to Vancouver for testing. Results not released to public. April Rose Johnson, yeah. I just it's haunting how many have gone, and here's another woman up in age. We saw Madaket, one that the last scene at earlier, which is one of the little back roads. This is a different back road, Grand Isle. She was found dead, homicide. Missing, homicide, unknown, homicide, unknown, missing, homicide, 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 homicide. Yeah. like I was saying, there's so many, and that was just a, it's not even verified to be all. That's just ones that are often suggested that we may know of. See, the RCMP want to say, oh, there's only 18, while there's many native groups and peoples who are saying, no, there's 40 plus. And then again, in the beginning, they said, uh, at the beginning of the Wikipedia article, 80 plus. So there's still a lot of confusion on how to list it. The first investigation by the RCMP that tried to look at the Highway of Tears as linked cases was opened in December of '98. However, the list of cases as it existed back then included 3 additional male victims: Larry Vu, Eric Charles Koss, and Philip Inez Frazier. To date, a number of people have been convicted in cases related to the Highway of Tears. 3 serial killers are among those charged: Brian Peter Arp, Dennis Edward Dennis Isaac, and Cody Legabakoff. Although he was not publicly implicated in any of the Highway of Tears cases, Bobby Jack Fowler was implicated in numerous non-Highway of Tears Ipana cases. Fowler died in prison and has never been charged in the deaths of any of those Highway of Tears victims. It is possible that Fowler was linked to the Highway of Tears cases because he worked for a now closed Prince George company called Happy's Roofing in 1974, which was the same year that Monica Ignace went missing in Terrace, BC. Former Vancouver Police geographic profiler Kim Rosmo is on the record having said that, in his opinion, Fowler is not responsible for any of the crimes along Highway 16 between 1989 and 2006. But it doesn't mean he wasn't responsible for any of them beforehand, because remember, they say the highway itself was completed in 1970. He was working for a company in Prince George, which is along the highway itself, in 1974. So, we don't know. 2009, police converged on a property in Isle Pierre in rural Prince George to search for the remains of Nicole Hoare, a young tree planter who went missing on Highway 16 on June the 21st, 2002. The property was once owned by Leland Chuggy Vincent Switzer, who served a prison sentence for second-degree murder of his brother and is out on day parole as of late 2016. The RCMP also searched the property for the other missing women from the Highway of Tears. However, no further actions followed the investigation. RCMP Sergeant Wayne Clary said that they may never solve all the cases, and that it may be people in the communities that are going to solve these crimes. So, yeah. Government email scandal. Federal government report: Ministerial Assistant George Gredis was accused of being irresponsible for triple deleting all emails relating to the Highway of Tears from email account Tim Duncan, former executive assistant to the Transportation Minister Todd Stone. On the 22nd of October 2015, Elizabeth Denham, the Information and Privacy Commissioner of British Columbia, published a 65-page report outlining how British Columbia government officials had triple deleted emails relating to the Highway of Tears. In her report, Access Denied, Denham describes the act of triple deleting as transferring an email to the deleted folder on a computer system, deleting the email from the folder, and then overriding the backup that permits the system to retrieve deleted items. So it's like they went extra far to delete something. By deleting these files, Denham states the government had breached the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Denham became aware of the scandal in May of 2015 after she received a letter from Tim Duncan, the former executive assistant of Transportation Minister Todd Stone. Duncan claimed he was responding to a Freedom of Information application. Ministerial Assistant George Gredis ordered for Duncan to search his records for any files pertaining to the Highway of Tears and missing women. Once these files were located, Duncan testified that Gredis ordered them to be deleted. When Duncan hesitated, Gredis allegedly took the keyboard and triple deleted all the emails relating to the Highway of Tears. According to Denham, Gredis originally denied this claim, but later admitted to the triple deletion during a second police interview. Denham states that Gredis, who resigned from his job in October of 2015, would have then lied under oath. A year earlier, in the summer of 2014, a team from the Transportation Ministry toured Highway 16 and conducted numerous meetings with Aboriginal leaders and communities. Project EPANA by the RCMP. Some critics argue that the lack of results arising from this investigation is a result of systemic racism. This was also reported to be an issue in the case of Vancouver's missing women and the Robert Pickton murders. Activists argue that media coverage of these cases has been limited, claiming that the media assign a lesser value to Aboriginal women. So, yeah. Recommendation reports. Seeing what else I've got here. Media and awareness efforts. But yeah, we've got other the Canadian Encyclopedia, they talk a bit about the Highway of Tears. And then, of course, here's an article I found, Vancouver Sun. Another woman found dead near British Columbia's Highway of Tears. 8 things to know about the notorious stretch of road. Dozens of young women have vanished or been killed along a stretch of highway between Prince George and Prince Rupert. So they talk about where it is, why it's called that. Is there a transit system in place along this stretch of highway? Says there is, but before 2017, many local people hitchhiked to travel where they needed to go. Because, again, that's just one of those things. What is the Highway of Tears governing body? Ba, ba, ba. It was formed as a result of one of the recommendations that came out of a symposium, and it provides direction and support to implement all the report recommendations. So, yeah, it talks about what's being done to try to make it safer. How did the police investigation begin? What came out of the national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls? And where can I find out more about the Highway of Tears? But yeah, just I'll let you read these if you want to read them on your own time, because this video has already gone on quite a while. But yeah, we have a stretch of highway with a few little side roads that travels from Prince George to Prince Rupert, 719 kilometer. I think they said 447 mile. By car, supposedly, according to Google Maps, just under 2 hours. Or under 8 hours, sorry, to travel the full distance. So, yeah. You can see there's a lot of issues that can lead up to what's happening on this highway. Where so many people go missing or end up dead, especially Indigenous women, Aboriginal, Native, whatever you wish to say. Yeah. And like I said, unfortunately, many of them are young, in their teens, early 20s. Something, no, none should have to die. But if you're cutting out the young generation, how does any group rebound? And it's just one of these eerie things. There has been really nothing confirmed. There's cases they say, oh, it might be this person or this person. But again, they can't even agree on the full amount of women connected, of just victims connected to this road. Just thought I'd bring you something a little more unsolved crime like in this episode. But we'll go ahead and end this here. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting sources and links in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.